Sugar, we all eat it, and yet some of us eat it a little bit more than others. To explain this, I'm going to use a statistic. One source claimed that the average citizen in America consumes 1 billion pounds of sugar per year. This is an abuse of a substance that most of us find bountiful in our community. In fact, if you go into McDonald's and order an iced coffee, a simple drink, it comes with added sugar, which means what are Americans faced with today? They're faced with not an opportunity to choose what they're eating, but they're faced with an opportunity to literally lead to their own death. On the opposite side of the situation, we're going to examine cancer, and more specifically, ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer has become more prominent for women over the years. In fact, one source claimed that now 13-year-olds are being more diagnosed with ovarian cancer. For all of you mothers out there and for teenagers, how many of you have actually gone in and been screened for ovarian cancer? Just raise your hands. I see only a few of you raising your hands. Ovarian cancer is more deadly than other diseases because the symptoms for it often go unnoticed. And the fact is, 13-year-olds aren't going to have screenings to see if they have ovarian cancer because most parents and children alike don't think that at such a young age they'd be having cancer. The topic that I'm talking about today, and the research that I've been performing for the last 2 years, has been the correlation between ovarian cancer and the consumption of glucose. I want to be able to see if there was a direct factor that was leading to the food that we've been consuming, such as what Jamie Oliver has already stated, with such high levels of sugar, if it's leading to the death and the growth of such cancer. When I was 15, I started my project during the 10th grade. And the reason why I became involved with ovarian cancer in particular was because my mom was diagnosed with cervical cancer. During those years, I became more familiar with those different types of cancers that are associated usually with cervical cancer, including ovarian cancer. Because I learned that so many women are becoming diagnosed with cervical cancer and ovarian cancer alike, and that the symptoms for ovarian cancer go more unnoticed, I felt that this disease in particular needed to become more prominent in society. If people don't know the effects that such a small substance like glucose is leading to the deaths of so many women, it needs to become heard out into the community, which is what we're doing today anyways. So my 10th grade year, I used the Biology Workbench 3.2 to try to see, using this database online, whether or not the sugar we are consuming has this direct link with ovarian cancer. And by using the different resources and tools that were presented on this online database, I was able to recognize that the amino abundance structure and the protein structure of both these two substances did actually have a direct link. Now, for a person at 15 years old, it's more scary actually to be able to know that the food that we're consuming is actually leading to cancer. So I wanted to take this a step further, just to further demonstrate and actually try to prove whether or not the food we're consuming is leading to such a deadly disease. And if it is, how can we prevent it so that in the future, more scientists can find out other ways to try to prevent this disease that is affecting so many women today? So in my 11th grade year, when I finally turned 16, I was able to go into the laboratory to perform research directly on ovarian cancer. Now, to begin this project, I emailed about 8 different universities within Southern California, which my mom thankfully would be able and willing to drive me to over a weekday. So the only university that actually responded back to me, and thankfully they did respond back, was the University of Southern California. Therefore, during my 11th grade year, I spent a week doing research on ovarian cancer using a specific line of ovarian cancer, which is the ML10 cystosoma epithelial cell line. And this is actually the cell line right before they become cancerous, so that if I was able to see whether or not directly sugar, when placed in a solution, would lead to an increase of the amount of cells being produced in this specific solution. Now, during that year, I used 3 specific solutions in particular. Now, blood, just as further research, has about 0.9 to 1.3 milliliters of glucose already in your blood system. So for my research, I used 3 different solutions of glucose to be able to test my hypothesis that glucose does lead to ovarian cancer. For my 3 different types of solutions, I use minimal essential media, which has 1 gram of solution of glucose. Therefore, that would be my constant because that's directly related to the amount of glucose we already have in our blood supply. Then I use minimal essential media with a mixture of Dubalco's minimal essential media, which has 2.75 milliliters of glucose. Therefore, it's relatively higher than the amount of glucose that we have in our bloodstream. And then I just use Dubalco's minimal essential media, which has 4.5 milliliters of glucose. By using these 3 different types of glucose solutions, I was able to directly test whether or not glucose does lead to this proliferation of the cells in our body, which would therefore lead, with a high % chance of 72%, into ovarian cancer. That was during my 11th grade year of research. Now that I'm a senior in high school, I'm going back actually next week to further perform and test my theory on ovarian cancer and the amount of consumption of the glucose that we're eating. This topic is more important than just looking at the effects of cancer itself. It's the lifestyles that many women are doing today, and the fact that people don't know that sugar is leading to cancer, presumably. This demonstrates that we need more of an outreach and more knowledge to our general community, that we need more regulations to try to help what we are eating so that we can try to prevent these diseases such as ovarian cancer. In fact, 23,000 women are diagnosed with ovarian cancer, but only 14,000 of them know that by the time that they're diagnosed and screened with it, that they can do something to try to prevent it. So many women die because of this disease, and we need to try to step back as a whole community and realize what we're doing is actually wrong by the lifestyles and the eating habits that we're undertaking. With this speech, I'm hoping that as citizens of America, we can try to change the lifestyles for women and have more knowledge on what is going on with our community. Ovarian cancer is a very serious disease, and I hope that with this research, we'll be able to reform the ways that we're eating and try to change the lifestyles of how we are living. Thank you very much.